We are coming back at you today with another episode of Summer Lunch Break. For this week's ep, we get to sit down with the 2022 Nautique Wake Series Champion and overall Wakeboard World Series Champion, Cory Teunissen. Cory is a hardcore competitor who's become quite familiar with the top spot on just about every podium. So we had to take some time today to ask Cory about his mindset when it comes to competitive riding. For someone who crushes comps the way Cory does, we can't help but wonder how he got into wakeboarding in the first place. I've interviewed quite a few professional riders since the start of this podcast, but Cory is the first I've interviewed who earned himself his very own Pro Moto board just a few months after joining Team Hyperlite. Be sure to tune in and hear how the Hyperlite Capitol came to be from the pro himself. Let's get him out here. It's Cory Teunissen.
You know what I'm really scared about is if the wakeboarders get too close to shore, they may use some people on the shore as bonking items.
To Summer Lunch Break.
Thank you very much. I'm stoked. We've actually been trying to do this for a while now, and yeah, it's been an incredible summer. So thank you for bearing with me, and thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited we are here doing it today. We are in different time zones, and normally I would ask, what are you having for lunch today? But I have a feeling you're still getting up this morning. So what time is it there?
Yeah, so I'm actually I'm back in Australia right now, and it's been incredibly busy since I've been back to. I thought I was going to be able to relax for a little bit and
chill. Nope.
But it's just been like event after event. Like, so I'm actually down in Sydney right now. I was doing some work with Red Bull a couple of days ago, and decided to stay an extra couple of days and hang out with some buddies of mine down in Sydney. So yeah, the days it's getting started, it's 10 o'clock in the morning, and got my little morning cup of coffee. Getting the day started, yeah.
Very nice, very nice. Well, I have to ask, I ask everybody, so I'm not going to leave you out. I know you're not having lunch right now. Have you thought about what you're going to have for lunch today?
Yeah, I think there was talks between some of the boys. There's this new spot that just opened up. It's called Fishbowl. Nice. It's like a really healthy bowl place, and like it's unreal, really
all right, good. So exciting. Like, well, I expect a review. I expect a review on it later. Okay,
I'll do a whole review.
Okay, perfect. That's what we want. I mean, honestly, these interviews are fun, but I really want to know what everybody's eating. That's the most important thing. All right, let's get into your story. I like to get a background on everybody I talk to. I think it's super important to learn about, where these amazing pro riders come from. So how the heck did you get into wakeboarding?
Yeah, essentially, probably started about 20 years ago now.
How old are you?
I'm 25. I just turned
25. Okay, so 5. Okay. Just wanted to make sure I knew. Okay. Sorry, continue.
So yeah, my dad was into water skiing and boating when he was younger, and essentially when myself and my brother came along, it got passed down to us very quickly. I think I water skied when I was 3 and wakeboarded when I was 4, and kind of just stuck with it, I think. And the area that I grew up in, there was like a really cool little environment of a couple families like all learning how to wakeboard at the same time. So it was a real encouraging environment to be around.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. So if you started on skis and then you went to wakeboarding, was there just no looking back once you got your feet strapped into a board?
Well, I think it was just all natural progression, and for me, like I was always the youngest of the group, so I just wanted to follow what everyone was doing. I wanted to be like the cooler older kids, right? Like I want to follow what they're doing. And that being said, like everyone kind of picked up on wakeboarding because I was just like the fresh thing to do, and we were just young kids sort of messing around out on the lake, and I kind of followed with that, and then that sort of led into doing like the regional, like grassroots events, and then that led
Yeah.
into doing like state title stuff, and then into nationals, and then obviously traveling overseas from there. So
Totally.
it was a very progressive
Yeah.
up for sure.
Totally, totally. So
Yeah.
did you have that moment kind of, transferring from just out on the lake messing around, with the older kids to maybe taking a little bit more seriously, entering your first competition, did you have that moment of like, okay, like I'm doing this and this is what I'm going to do for a long time?
Yeah, I think it kind of, I want to say it happened like halfway along the journey, really. I don't think like in the midst of it all, like I don't think I ever had like a moment where I was like, okay, like let's try and make something of this. But I definitely think looking back on it now, like I think it was probably my second trip to the States when I was 14, and I was living with my brother and a couple of friends at the time. And I think I kind of realized in the moment, I was like, this isn't normal. Like a 13, 14-year-old kid living
Yeah.
living internationally for half the year every year. I was like,
Right.
yeah, I don't think this is not really normal. Like all my
Mm-mm.
buddies are still home. I'm like
Yeah.
really the only one kind of doing it. So I probably think like around that time, like my second trip to the States, and I was 14, and I really started to show some progression and some light towards potentially having something out of the industry. And I think looking back on it now, it was definitely around that time where I was like, okay, like this could be something.
Right, right. Yeah. Realizing like, yeah, I am, the only person that I know my age that's doing this like weird back and forth thing. Was that difficult? I mean, traveling back and forth, is it hard at times? I can only imagine, it's two completely different worlds that you're living in. What's it like?
Yeah, definitely. I think when I was younger, it was a lot easier for sure. I was
Mhm.
just a little teenage kid living the
Yeah.
dream, like getting away from his parents for half the
Hmm.
year, and it was like, hell yeah, let's
Yes.
go. Like this
Right.
is this is awesome, And
Yeah.
then I think as you get older, you appreciate the people that you have in your life. And for me, family's number one, and it's tough enough to leave my family, but my brother's got 2 kids now too, so he's got a little boy and a little girl, and for me, like leaving them every year is
Dude,
next
yeah.
to impossible. And it sort of just comes down to the fact now that if I want to keep making that sacrifice and be away from home and all my family and all my friends
Yeah.
for such a long period of time, like I want to do the best I possibly can to make
Totally.
it worthwhile for them. So but that being said, it's not like I'm just like packing up and leaving and I'm with no one. Like I got
Yeah.
some of my best friends live in America as well. So I've
Totally.
been incredibly lucky to create the life that I have, but also to have the friends and the people that I have in my life as well.
Totally. Totally. So the first time you came over to the United States, sounds like you were a little bit younger. Was there any sort of like absolute culture shock that you were like, dude, these Americans are weird. Why do they do this?
Well, I think like I don't think I ever really realized anything because I was so young. So I was constantly
Right. Okay.
I was constantly learning, and I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
okay, well, like this is normal, I guess. I thought like, well, for me anyway, like I first came over when I was 13. My dad flew over with me. And then we ended up meeting up with Kobe and Tara Mikasic.
Okay.
And I ended up staying with them for about 6 weeks through the
Very
summer.
cool.
And it was pretty funny. Like my dad flew over with me. We like met up with them like midday at their house. And then dad flew out that night. He was like, all right, you're done. I'm like, see
See
ya,
ya. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
getting ready
Good
now.
luck.
Like, he probably had a huge party and celebrated when he went back. But yeah, like everything was I was so young, like I was learning the world. So I just assumed that everything was very normal, and I've obviously continued to travel back and forth. So for me, like those culture shocks and those differences have
Pretty
just become,
minimal.
they've just
Yeah.
become my life.
Okay. Okay. Very nice. I was hoping you had some like crazy, like, yeah, you guys are psycho, but Oh well.
Oh, I mean, like, obviously, like, America's definitely, like, bigger is better for sure.
Okay.
You know, like,
Okay. I agree. I get
yeah,
that. Yep.
100%. I think,
Oh, that's hilarious.
actually, no, like, if anything now, I would say, the personalities between, people that live in America and that live in Australia. I think a lot of people in Australia specifically live very like open and adventurous lives, and I think a lot of people in America live lives through their phones.
Okay.
I think that like
Yeah.
over the years I've definitely noticed that for sure. Like a lot of
Something you've
people are like
seen.
very like, and I'm not saying that Australians don't live through their phones because
They don't even have
but
iPhones there. Yeah.
we're still on the what were they, Blackberries or whatever, but
Yeah.
but no, I think like, I don't know, like we love to go to the beach and just hang out at the beach, or go for a walk, or go for a little hike up to some waterfalls or whatever. Like we're just like, I'm more than happy to leave my phone at home and go hang out at the waterfall for an hour or two. Where like a lot of lives are lived through their phones over in America, which is like a little bit of a culture shock, not a shock, but just slight difference. But
yeah, totally. That's an interesting perspective. Okay. Let's kind of jump. Before I jump, because I do want to ask, like what it was like entering your very first comp, even if it was, a smaller scale. Like what led you to want to do that? Going into it, do you remember what your mindset was like? Just kind of tell me a story for that.
Yeah, I think, well, like, it's kind of funny. I don't necessarily have like a vivid memory of it, because I think I first started competing when I was like 5 or 6 years old, just in like the little grassroots stuff. It was more like, honestly, it was more just like, I want to follow like the older, cooler kids, like all these
you want to do it because they're doing it.
Yeah, exactly. And I was lucky enough, I had my brother competing growing up as well, so I grew up competing with my brother, but competing was never natural for me. Like I always really struggled competing, and always had a pretty difficult time navigating the events and being comfortable with that. So for me, it was definitely a progress that I had to sort of learn how to navigate. But I think I just would become like super anxious and nervous coming into events, and wouldn't feel like, not that I didn't belong or like didn't deserve to be there, but it was just a huge process that I had to learn to adapt to.
Right.
Where like a lot of people are very like natural at competing. Like my brother, for example, he was like handled it very well, and a lot of other people are, like in the industry now, I think are very natural competitors, but it definitely took me a long time to be comfortable.
Right. That you realize how insane that sounds, hearing you say that you weren't comfortable competing. Like it's so wild how far you've come to, if you were there, and then look at you now. It's crazy.
Oh, I mean, the amount of times I've flown halfway around the world, and like my family would spend like 20, 30, 40 grand just on like a trip to an event, and I'd go out and fall first trip, like 2 tricks first round, and just be done. I'm like, sorry Dad, like I'll get the next one, it's all right. But
that's awesome.
yeah, I was never a natural competitor. I had to really adjust and learn how to compete.
Yeah. Well, I relate to that. I used to run track in middle school, and before every race, I would literally think about, if I ran away now, I won't have to run in the event because they won't find me in time. Hated it because I could never get past the whole, like, I'm running in a circle. Like I'm going around in a circle. That's there. I just couldn't wrap my head around it. I hated it. So I totally relate to you.
There you go. I like it.
Okay, before we get into like talking, comps and stuff like that, because I totally want to do that today, we are going to take a step in a little bit different direction, because, well, yes, you are a hardcore competitor and a serious athlete. I have some not so serious questions for you.
Perfect. These are my
I'm going to rapid fire. Better get ready, okay?
Yeah.
First one. What are some of your hobbies outside of wakeboarding?
Prefer to surf. like actual like ocean surf, and especially like when I'm back home, like, I mean, I'm 25 years old. I'm happy to go to a bar and grab a cocktail and hang out with friends and just do like normal fun shit that every other person will do, you know. But yeah, I try and surf as much as I can when I'm back here in Oz, just because the surf is normally pretty good. But yeah, I'm just like a normal kid.
You're like, I'm just a normal guy. Yeah, whatever. Okay. All right. What is a very special skill that is non-wake related that you have?
Special skill. Shit. These ones always stump me. Actually, like super weird. Super weird, but I don't know why, but like every time we'll like go out and like eat wings or whatever, like I'm gonna like
this is taking a turn.
Yeah, super weird, but like I'll like clean the full chicken bone.
left.
There's not like one
Nothing.
tiny little bit of meat left. No. Everyone looks at me like super weird. They're like, bro, like that's not normal. I'm like,
right, yeah. Just give up when it's like no longer like good.
Nah, there's still
gotta eat the whole thing. Are you a spicy wing guy? Are you a honey barbecue guy? Like what kind of wings do you get? Honey barbecue. Okay. Have you ever done like a hot wing challenge?
Yeah, that's not for me.
No, not your jam. Okay, fair. That's very fair. I look at a bottle of Tabasco and I'm like, can't do it. I can't do hot sauce, so not for me.
Sriracha is good, but Tabasco is like, yeah.
No, you can stay over there. I'm good.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. What is one of the worst habits that you have?
Worst habits?
Yeah.
I think I got like a really addictive personality. So I think whenever I find something that I want to turn my attention to, like it's just like it's bang, like it's all
tunnel vision.
Like all my attention's gone to that, which is like you can say it's a good thing, but also like
it can be bad at times. Yeah, it can be very time consuming. Okay. So are you like, if you start a Netflix show, is it like you need to set aside 24 hours to finish the whole thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
Very fair. I do that too. Like I find myself fall down like the YouTube, like the rabbit hole. And next thing I know, I'm like addicted to some show that like I don't even know what it is. I'm like, but it's so good.
I know. I'm the exact same. It's bad.
Okay.
I'll just go to a cave for like 2 days and no one will even know that I've gone.
Turn into a hermit. Nobody misses you. Nobody says anything. Like, by the way, it's still in
oh, you're back. Damn. All right.
Oh, that's funny. All right. Something that you think is cool, but it's not actually cool.
Ooh. Being kind and thoughtful to like people in need.
No, that's cool. That is cool.
But I feel like for the longest time has always been like a lot of mental health like issues and stuff like that.
Okay,
like
fair.
for the longest time it was very like taboo and not a lot of people spoke about it.
Right. Okay, fair.
But I think like that's one like thing that I'm very lucky with over here is like my group of friends are like very open to talk about just situations that they're not very comfortable with. And I think that's very rare to find in like a group of friends over here, but also like super important.
Okay. Good answer. Not what I was expecting, but good answer. All right. One of your most embarrassing moments.
Oh God. Embarrassing.
You're like, I never do anything wrong. I don't get it.
Well, normally like the real embarrassing moments I tend to forget pretty quickly.
Black them out. Yeah, they didn't happen. I don't know. Who the hell did that? Yeah.
I don't know why this is jumping into my head, but it's not necessarily embarrassing. It was more like not my place and like I felt terrible, but and like I said, I don't know why this is popping up into my head because I haven't had this thought in forever, but my
Yeah,
first pro
unpack it.
event in the States. It was in Texas, and it was like freezing cold. It was like raining super hard, and everyone had like 2-3 layers on. Like everyone was like freezing. And I like went out in the first round, like rode really well, was like super stoked, and like whipped back into the dock super hard.
Oh, no.
Just had like way too much speed and just had to like kill speed somehow, and just like completely soaked the whole like riders area. And it's like freezing. It's like 60 degrees.
Oh
And
no.
like it was like the first event, rookie, did not belong, and I was just like, oh, like that was probably I
Came
just
in a
like
little
felt
too
bad
hot.
more than anything. Yeah. But
Oh,
whatever.
too bad. They were fine. I mean, you know, it's a splash zone. Stay out of the splash zone. Okay, good one. Good one. I have one. When I was younger, I had told my friend that I knew, and like I'm talking like I think I was maybe 6. Maybe.
Okay.
I told my friend, I went over to her house, I told her, yeah, I can ride my bike with no training wheels. I'm a G, like bring it, right? What I
That's
didn't
such a
know,
big thing back then too.
dude, and I shouldn't have done it, and I regret it even now because at school I would talk like big game or what. I go to her house. I did not know she lived on a hill that was the steepest hill in the entire world. The entire world, I don't even know how they build a house on it. And she's like, ride down the hill.
You're on.
I'm like, oh, for sure. So the entire time I'm walking the bike up this hill, I'm like in my own head, like, you have to just do it. Like you have to do it. You have to eat shit, and you have to be like, it was a hill, but I can still ride it 2 wheels. I got to the very top of the hill, and I'm standing there, tunnel vision. I can see the bottom of the hill. At the end of the hill is like sticker bushes with like thorns on them.
That's always good.
I got in my own head, and I was like, if I fall on purpose, no one can get mad at me because they won't know. So I get on the bike and I just like push off with both my feet, and I'm zooming down the hill, and I was just like, now, and I like flipped the bike and completely rolled down. So embarrassed, and like nobody really knew I was embarrassed because they thought I was hurt, but it was totally on purpose. So I didn't have to own up to my lie. Amazing. And that was, I didn't think I would unload that today, but for anybody watching, that's what happened to me. Okay, back on track. Still can't ride a bike. Back on track. What is, this one's a little more wake related, but what is one of the coolest places that you have traveled for wakeboarding? I know it's probably hard to narrow down, but
yeah. I think like holiday destination wise, probably like all through like Europe and stuff like that, like Italy, Portugal. But I mean, Orlando has a special part in my, like, it'll always hold a special spot in my heart for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Where is the worst place you've had to travel to wakeboard?
China.
Oh, okay. Why?
Yeah. Went there 3 years in a row for an event out there, and I just I got food poisoning 2 out of the 3 trips. Place is dirty. The hotel was terrible. The people were pretty arrogant.
Average.
And I think like the last trip, we like finally like kind of got our bearings a little bit. So we just ate Pizza Hut, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Yeah. And it was like a 15-20 minute walk from where we were staying. And that was like the only thing we knew. So it was like we just like migrated to Pizza Hut for every meal. But yeah, I did not enjoy my time there.
Okay. Well, we'll leave that in the past. We don't have to go back. No more China. No more talk about that. Okay. We're going to get more focused on wakeboarding now. You are, I will say, you are the only person that I have had on this show that I have had to double my notes that I have. And it's because I took a whole page to write down some awards you've won, some titles you've grabbed yourself. And I would read through all of them, but I feel like most of these episodes are supposed to be like an hour, and I don't think I have enough time to get through everything. So let's focus on this
Not
year.
at all. Come on.
I mean, I'll read them off. Maybe we'll list them at the end, like credits, and they'll like run up the screen. But I want to talk about 2022.
It's the couple.
I want to talk about 2022 because, dude, you had a crazy, amazing year. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I try to follow, but I do get a little confused sometimes. Started off the season at Moomba Masters.
Correct.
Yes. Grabbed second place there. Exciting, getting the ball rolling, getting ready to go. Then we go into what I believe was Nautique Masters, correct?
Correct.
First place on that one. How was that event? You know, kind of give me a little breakdown of what went down there.
Yeah, was obviously amazing. Can never complain when you walk away from a weekend and do well. But I think what was the most nerve-wracking for me was this whole off season. I was renewing my my US visa, and normally they take about like 3-4 months to do, and this year it took 10 months, which was obviously a lot longer than what anyone was expecting, and kind of started the process like halfway through last year. I was like, oh, just in case, like I'll be safe, you know. I managed to get over to America like a couple weeks before the event, so for me it was just like a super stressful build up to the event. I didn't know if I was going to be able to make it and all that, and I was just like checking the mailbox every day, waiting to see my passport in the mail. And the day it came, I literally booked a flight for like that afternoon and flew out the next morning. So I was like, I just straight into it. But yeah, I managed to string some stuff together at Masters, which is always nice. And personally, like Masters is like one of the hardest events we compete in, just because it's capped at so little riders, and obviously they get the best 12 riders around the world at that given moment to compete. It's always really, really difficult. So to have like a pretty stressful lead up into it, and then like just make it over there, like I think I was still like slightly jet lagged for the event.
Oh, totally.
And I was just like, it was super stressful leading into it. And yeah, managed to string some stuff together and come away with a result. So I was obviously like, pretty over the moon for that one.
Totally. So when you are, you know, in your competition mode, are you like in the zone, nobody talk to me, I gotta go win this, or are you pretty easygoing comp day type guy?
I'm pretty easygoing until I like start to get ready and start to warm up and get ready to compete. I think humor is such an like valuable tool to have through an event day, for sure. There's so much going on, and if you can kind of like just sit back and laugh at any opportunity you can, it just sort of keeps you present and in the moment. But then like definitely by the time I'm like getting ready to compete, I'm like sort of on my own doing my own thing.
Okay. And when you're out there, I've never asked anyone this, but I always think it. Do you ever talk to yourself when you're like back riding?
No, I'm not that person. No, it's like I've had so many people like.
He's like, oh my god, no.
For like sets and stuff, I'm like, dude, it's gonna be pointless, bro. Like you got to get nothing. Where like, I know like some of my buddies, I'll have like full conversations with themselves like when they ride, and I'm just silent the entire time. It's hilarious.
Okay. I've always want to ask. I'm like, I feel like that's a weird question, but I really am curious. Okay, moving on. The Pro Wakeboard Tour took the crown this year. I know that's a really like kind of prolonged event, and there's a lot that goes into it. Give me kind of the breakdown of 1, 2, 3. You know what I mean? Like, does that make sense? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. I think Supra did, and like, well, specifically the Pro Wakeboard Tour, the PWT, did a really good job at diversifying their tour this year. tried went down a different avenue of trying to create more of a production rather than an event day as such. And I think they did a really good job. They chose a really good site for the first and last stop, and the conditions were great. And obviously throwing in the online events as well can really switch things up pretty easily. You never know what can happen. So there's always a lot of anxiety when they're about to like release all that stuff. So
I bet.
But yeah, it was good. Started off off that tour pretty strongly, and competed really well at the first stop, and then kind of carried that momentum through the season, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. How did it feel? Just if you could describe what it felt like to take that victory for the event, what word would you use?
It felt good. I mean, it always
good.
It always feels good, but like, yeah, no, that one felt good. I hadn't the PWT's eluded me for like a few years for personal reasons and professional reasons as well, and I think the past couple of years I haven't really wanted to compete on the PWT, and I still had, but I was never like fully invested in it. My attention was like obviously on like the World Series and doing well at the events that my companies that I work with put more attention towards. So naturally my attention had sort of gravitated to try to compete well on that tour. But for the first time in a long time, it was I had like equal focus and attention to do well on the PWT. And I mean, yeah, it was good to do well on tour again. Obviously, there's the history with myself and Supra being on the Supra team for 9 years, and then obviously shifting and moving over to Nautique, which was probably the best thing I've ever done professionally. But it was nice to sort of get one on the books again and get one of those titles under my belt, just more to prove to myself that I'm like, okay, like I can do do that. Like if I do really want to do it, like I can do that. So for me, that was really uplifting and nice to like, it was like a nice moment to be like of realization to be like, like I can still do that if I want
to. Totally. Okay, so the word is good.
It was good.
He shrugs, dude. Good with the shrug.
Long story short, it was good.
It was good. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, let's go towards maybe some of the events that you focus a little bit more on and that are a little bit more near and dear to your heart. The 2022 Nautique Wake Series Champion and Wakeboard World Series Champion. Like, holy wow. I mean, tell me about the events and just, I'm not there, so I don't know what it's like. And I can only see what I see on my phone and online. So I'm always interested to get that, like, not only in-person perspective, but competitor in-person perspective of an event like as big as that.
Yeah, definitely. This year Worlds at Callaway was a pretty special event for sure. My old man actually flew over for the last event. He got in, I think, like 5 days before the event. And he always tries and like comes to the States at least like once a year. He loves it over there. But obviously don't want to talk about what's happened in the last couple of years. That's a whole nother rabbit hole on its own. But it was amazing to have him come over and really show support. And it was like, it was tight going into the last event too. So to have a little bit of home, a little bit of Australia with me in the last event was pretty special. And just navigating that whole weekend was so difficult. There's obviously so much on the last 8 months of your life that was sort of all leading up to this moment. And so yeah, it was unbelievably stressful to be a part of it. And there was a lot more media at that event than usual as well. So I'm like jumping from like trying to hang out with my sponsors and trying to do the media obligations that I need to do, and also like spend time with my dad and like be with my family, because I haven't seen them in so long. And so I was like just jumping back and forth, and there was so much to juggle through the event. But I think what really helped me like going into in the finals day was like there was like so many distractions that it was almost like kind of nice. It was like simple to just be able to go like, okay, like let's just go wakeboard and let's go and enjoy it for once, and really just be a part of it and trying to take it all in, rather than having the struggles of trying to navigate something. Just like be a part of that moment and feel it and kind of embrace it. And wherever that took me, I was going to be happy with the end result. And luckily it took me to a positive place. And I mean, obviously that event went really well as well. So zero complaints whatsoever. That was pretty special. And I think a moment that'll always stick with me for a long time was as soon as I got back to the dock after competing, like a bunch of my buddies like ran up to me and gave me like the biggest hug. And then when Dad finally got back down to the dock, he just like grabbed me and lifted me and just like held me in his arms. And it was just such a special moment to have with Dad over there, because it was so rare to like have him there in the first place. And then for everything to unfold like that was pretty special.
Awesome. Oh, you're gonna make me cry. That's so sweet.
Oh.
That's so awesome though. I mean, I feel like that's really cool, and it speaks volumes to just, you know, what you really care about when it comes to wakeboarding and that sort of thing. So that's really rad. I do want to ask, you know, with competing and going to, you know, head to head with so many people and that sort of thing, I want to ask, how do I want to word this? I want to know what you think, just industry wise, like what you think or who you think is on the come up, who had an amazing season that you were like, okay, I gotta watch this person, like I gotta keep my eye on you, like you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean it's such a difficult question, because there's so many people doing well now. Like I think probably for the last 3-4 years it was really myself and Nick kind of pushing each other and being very competitive. And that's so far from the truth now to say that it's just myself and him. Like obviously like Nick's a great competitor and I think we bring the best out of each other, but that's not the pool anymore. You got so many people. It's an effort to make finals now. Like you look back at the first PWT stop, Finn, for example, went out and did like a double flip, a mob 7, a back 9. Like it was like kind of like a running joke. It was like the hardest run to never make the final. And like on any other day like that like his stuff would have won the event. And I think it just goes to show the depth pool of talent that is in the sport right now is crazy. And it's the most competitive and the hardest that it's ever been right now. But that's also what makes it really intriguing, is that you never know what's going to happen. And the sport is progressing so quickly that it's almost like a game. It's fun, it's interesting. You never know what's going to happen.
Totally. Well, I have another kind of a hot take question for you, speaking more specifically towards yourself. If you were not winning as often as you are, do you think your mindset about wakeboarding and competing would be different than it is?
Yeah, I would say so, for sure. I think like obviously like getting that recognition and doing well in events and with companies specifically, like a lot of companies spend a lot of money and a lot of effort, and there's a lot of people that go into actually putting on an event So when you do well, obviously those companies are gonna be happy for you and wanna support you with a lot of different things. So and I've I've definitely sort of transitioned into like, I think my mindset on like my role in the industry right now is like, I definitely consider like, I definitely look at wakeboarding as like work and a job and a career for sure. But I think that also speaks because I have so many different elements to myself as well. Like, yes, I love wakeboarding, but it's not everything in my life. Like wakeboarding for me is my job and my career, and I love it for that. And obviously have had been lucky enough to have some success over the last couple of years, which keeps it nice and refreshing and fun and makes it all worthwhile. But I think if I wasn't doing as well, then like that's on me. Like I'm the type of person that I want to do something to the best of my ability, whatever it is. And if I wasn't doing as well as what I am, I'd probably just get like really pissed off and be like, like screw this. Like I need to get my shit together so that like, so if I wasn't like, if I wasn't doing as well, I'd probably just get like super pissed off and just like want to work to the point to get to that, So
okay, good answer.
it'd probably be nice, a little kick up the ass.
I mean, hey, well, all right. Let's talk a little bit about, your life with wakeboarding and wakeboarding being your career. What do you do to keep both your mental and your physical health kind of in check? You're pushing your body to these limits, and you're obviously doing like a somewhat high risk day job. Like it's something that, I like to get a perspective of what you do to, keep yourself in balance.
Yeah. And I think that last word is like balance is so important because like, for example, like season's done, I'm back home in Oz right now, and like I put my wakeboard up on a shelf and I won't look at it for like a month or two. And I'll take a fair amount of time off the water. And I never allocate a specific time to take off. I always just kind of let it happen to the point where like I don't think about wakeboarding for a long time, and then it'll like creep back into my life in one way or another. And I think when it gets to the point where I can't stop thinking about it, that's when I'm like, okay, like it's the right time. Like I'm obviously there to like get back out and want to push myself and dedicate myself to something that's essentially bigger than who I am, but to a tour and to the whole industry. Like it's a lot. So for me, like taking time off, especially like around this time of year, is just so important. Just one, to let the body recover, but more just to recharge the batteries as well. I think like the industry requires not only requires a lot of energy, but I think it deserves a lot of energy as well. And for me to constantly give that energy to the sport for year after year, I need my time away to
totally
give it what it deserves.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Okay. So what is,
yeah.
What is, I want to ask you, what is the most rewarding part of your job?
I think, obviously I get to do what I love.
Yeah.
I grew up wakeboarding. I grew up being introduced to the industry as a lifestyle, and to enjoy those special moments with friends and family. But I definitely think like, I don't know, the most rewarding moment for me was probably a few years ago when I blew out my shoulder and ended up getting like a full reconstruction and spent the whole off season just like rehabbing and getting back to where I wanted to be. And I ended up like getting back on the water a whole like month earlier. Like all my doctors were like, nah bro, like
don't do that,
you can't, no way. So so I ended up getting surgery I woke up from surgery on my 21st birthday.
Woo!
So it was a pretty loose birthday for sure. Ended up getting a new shoulder as a present.
Hell yeah.
But just spent so much time getting back to where I wanted to be. And I think I hopped on the water like 2 weeks before Moomba, and was just not confident coming into the event, and just kind of like stringing a bunch of stuff together and just trying to really survive and just trying to make up get as many points as possible for the overall for the tour. And ended up competing in finals and rode really well. And I was like, it was the first time like my whole family had flown down to Melbourne to come and support me. Like my brother, my brother's in-laws, like their whole family came down. Like there was like a crew of like 20 people. My manager came down as well. Like there was like a huge like support team. And I'm like walking back up to like the VIP area, like the grandstands or whatever, wherever I was. And my little nephew like came running over to me and like gave me a little cuddle and picked him up and gave him a hug. And as I like picked him up, the like over the announcement or whatever, like the results came out, and turns out I won the event, and just started like bawling my eyes out, crying straight away, and just how much I'd sacrificed to get back to that moment, and to have like so many people there supporting me. It was all like very overwhelming all at once. And like that was to have my little nephew in my arms at that time too, it was just like, it was a lot all at one moment, but it was so worth it, and everything had just come together so perfect.
Well, when you give so much to this sport and the industry, it's like it feels really, really good when you get something back out of it. And it, for a moment like that, I mean, it's huge. It's what you work so hard for, so that's really cool.
It was special for sure. It was cool. It was very overwhelming, but very emotional. But it was that was a cool moment.
Totally. And with when we get these awards and we do really well in things, there's often challenges that we have to face that get us to that point. What are, in the industry and your job and what you do, what are some of the biggest challenges that you face?
I mean, I think just like navigating a tour in general is a challenge in itself. There's so many things that can go right, but there's so many things that can go wrong. But I think the two biggest challenges I've definitely had to face over my career was like 2 years back to back around the same time each year. It was only a few years ago. But 2 years ago, one of my best buddies suddenly passed away in a freak accident. Ended up, he was free diving, ended up having a shallow water blackout and drowned underwater. And it was like all through COVID too, so like I couldn't just like rip home and
go and
be with his family and stuff like that. So for me, like that was definitely like the most difficult thing I think I've ever had to deal with. And even though I had a lot of friends around me in the States, I was like really like the only one like going through
that. You were on it.
I had a lot of support crew, but I also felt alone and stranded at the same time. So that was like really like difficult to navigate and deal with. And then around the same time, the following year, my mom got diagnosed with breast cancer. So then I was like, it just kind of felt like everything was just like piling on, and like was super was obviously like very difficult. But I think like without having that previous experience the year before, and being thrown off so much and being put in such a difficult position, I think I navigated mum's news a lot better than what I probably would have without having to deal with that. And I think I definitely grew a lot within that year and had a lot more of a level-headed mindset on me.
Yeah.
Navigating and dealing with that whole process, and very, very lucky. She's sweet now, and she had pretty much a flawless chemo program, and everything went really well. So she's still kicking on and loving life.
Love
and,
it. Good.
Yeah, so she's doing great. But yeah, I think also, like, I think the biggest thing was, again, like, I just had such an amazing support crew around me, and I don't, like, I've always been the type of person where I'd rather have a small group of friends that are a lot more meaningful than a lot of have a big group of friends. So I'm very lucky to have the people that I have in my life, and they definitely are a big aspect of who I've become as a person today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we are sending your mom love and joy and all the good vibes we have. I will say, I think it's really interesting to hear your story of like what challenges you most, even in terms of your career. It's things that it wasn't even wakeboarding, it was outside of it, but it then affects, kind of what's going on with your career and that sort of thing. And I think balance kind of comes back into play there of like, things need to be in balance. And when they're out of balance, it's how we find that balance again. So really, thank you for sharing that story. That's very cool to hear, and just get that course. That insider information that we don't know or we may not be aware of, and it's cool to know those kinds of stories about people.
Well, we all deal with our own shit on different levels, right?
Yes.
And I think like being in an industry, it's every industry, like every sporting, like a lot of people, when they see these highlight reels of all these people competing and all the athletes within the sport, but there's so many more levels, and there's so many
so much more. So much more.
Yeah,
totally.
So,
okay, I'm gonna focus in on one more question. I will say, my first question I asked about giving me one word to describe something, I got good. So now I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you to do it again. I need you to give me one word to describe what your mindset is like when you go into a comp. And if you say good, I'm going to end the call right now.
It's good. No, I'm just kidding.
All right.
Clarity.
Okay, and why?
I think like you're able to take on new information and process that a lot easier when you have an open mind, and when you believe so much in what you're doing and where you're at, and you're so comfortable with what you're doing, then I think you have the ability to be able to process things a lot cleaner.
The contest scene. I want to know that when it comes to comps, what is more important to you? Is it style or is it execution? I know it sounds weird because you need to execute, obviously, but it's like, I hope you know what I mean when I ask that.
Yeah, no, of course. And it's definitely a combination of both, for sure. The sport is growing so quickly at the moment that you need to look. I think the best way to sort of go look at it is, yes, wakeboarding is a sport, but it's a craft, more importantly.
Yeah.
And there's no set way to do a craft, and I think that's what is so interesting and intriguing about wakeboarding, is it's very personal, and it's very you can be very easily influenced, and it's difficult because the whole idea about competition is to bring out the most technical and the most difficult thing that is possible. And yes, that is the underlining thing about competition. That's what I think everyone that competes on tour strives for, is to be essentially the best wakeboarder at that given moment. But it is a craft also, and I think you look at guys like Sam or like Gunther or Ty that do a really good job at really separating themselves, and whenever you see one of those guys ride, like it's them, like that they're competing when you're at an event. And I think they do an unbelievable job at really sort of personalizing their own stuff. But it's definitely a mixture for sure. Like you can't just go out and have something in mind and just go out and do that year after year.
Right.
And I think a lot of people have, and I think a lot of people are slowly adjusting to that, me being included in those people. But then again, like I look back at like past years of competing, and like every year I've like had some, like at least like one thing different from like every year, which is something that I'm personally proud of. Like I haven't just done, like I do a lot of like similar stuff, but at least every year there's been like one or two changes, which is difficult when you're dealing with the top 0.5% of progression, and at that peak it's difficult to really adjust stuff. But I think that's where the best wakeboarders really shine.
Totally. Cool answer. Okay. And then one more thing about the industry, and then I have some other questions I'm going to ask you. But if there was one thing that you could change about the way a competition happens, what would it be? Add something, to subtract something. I mean, anything come to mind when I ask that?
Yeah, I think, look, I've always been a big fan of, I'm not a big fan, I'm a big believer in, like, I'm happy to sacrifice conditions for a great location and a great event. And I think the events have for so long been solely centered around the performance and the athletes competing, which is great because, I mean, look at the level of competition every year. It's just been slowly increasing and getting more and more difficult, which is great for the progression of the sport. But I think the events need to be tailored around a show that we are included in, rather than us as athletes and create a show around that. I think the show and the presentation needs to be the priority, and we're an asset to that. Like we should complement that.
Yeah. Okay.
So whatever that is, taking us to in the middle of cities and competing in terrible conditions, making a show out of it and making it fun and enjoyable and attractive to an everyday Joe. Or whether if it's bringing, like, teaming up with other events and festivals, or making like a full day out of it, or like I look at the best event that I compete in every year, which is Moomba here in Oz, and it's a part of, like, yes, it's been going for 50, 60 years or whatever, but it's like a city festival.
Totally.
And it's like a 5-day festival, and like they get like over 2.5 million people through the gates over the course of like 4 or 5 days.
Yeah,
you know,
that's crazy.
It's not solely focused on the wakeboarding and the water skiing. It's a whole event coming together to create a show and a performance, and we're the assets to that.
Yeah, totally.
That's why that event does so well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's cool too, because it gives kind of the opportunity of giving wakeboarding this platform of, like, it's a part of things that maybe someone wouldn't go to a comp, but if there was a whole event going on, they're going to be there and they're going to watch and they're going to witness it. And that opens so many more doors. So that's a really cool perspective on that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm very grateful that the attention has been so solely focused on us and the performance and like the riders. But I think there needs to be like a little bit of a shift, and like sort of have that like production and that show more focused on.
Totally. Okay, good answer. I like it. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about some of your sponsors, some of the brands you work with. I would like to, since we as a dealer, we do sell Nautiques here in Oregon. What are 3 of your like favorite features? You have a G23, am I right?
Yes. So I have a G23 back here in Australia.
Nice. Okay.
And
Okay.
I have a Paragon down in Orlando.
Nice. 2 boats. Okay. Perfect.
So very lucky.
Nice.
Like unbelievably lucky. Like
Totally. No, that's so well, you work hard and you totally. So I guess let's focus on the Paragon because that's what I want to talk about. What are the top 3 features on your Paragon that are just like chef's kiss to you? Couldn't go without them. Need them.
Obviously one, the wake that talks. That's it. Yeah, that's
it.
I don't think we need to talk about that. That's pretty standard. But one thing that I actually generally use every day going in and out of the boat slip down in Orlando more specifically is the new telescoping tower that's on there. Like I even had the electric power towers and stuff beforehand that used to like go up and down like that, like a normal tower. But even still, like coming in and out of the boat slip twice a day, like you'd have to unclip the bimini, you'd have to unclip the tower, you'd have to unlock it, you'd have to do the board racks, there was like so many steps just to push a button and put the tower down. It was almost like it was almost contradicting. It was like, yeah, like it's easy, but like you
have to do everything else beforehand, and then it's easy.
Get it to that point, you know, where like, dude, like coming in and out of the boat slip, it's just like doesn't matter where anyone's standing, doesn't matter what anyone's doing in the boat. Like you just push the button and it's too easy now. It really is. So and it's kind of funny. I have like a little rule on my boat that we're not allowed to wake surf with the tower up. We have to surf with the tower down. Just like no reason at all, just because we have that opportunity. We have the option and we have the opportunity to. So I'm just like, that's one rule on my boat. But like just how easy it is. It's so easy to use that boat. Like anyone can sit anywhere. The boat's like everything's it's gonna be consistent every time. It's just so user friendly. Like I do a lot of like corporate stuff or like over here specifically in Oz, and like there's people jumping in and out of the boat, and like no one's like really driven a wakeboard boat before, and like I push a button, I set it up, and like someone that's never driven a wakeboard boat before can like easily drive the boat for me and have it good. And it's just like it's so rare to have that, specifically for so long with like all the wakeboard boats. Like everything would have to be so perfect, but like they're just they're so easy to use.
Easy. Love it.
Too easy, eh?
Okay. New brand slogan maybe. It's just too easy.
You're welcome.
You're welcome, Nautique. You use that. Please give this show credit. Okay, so what year did you sign with Hyperlite?
Beginning of last year.
So
21.
What was that kind of experience like, you know, forming that relationship and getting to the point where you're signing the paper, you're on the team, you know, you're a part of the company. Like, what was that like? Good?
Yeah, obviously incredible. It was good. Nah, look, I want to start by saying I spent over 10 years with O'Brien, and what they did for me and like that part of my career and what they created for me was incredible. And I'm obviously very thankful to have that opportunity. But interests and passions sort of change, and them O'Brien as a business were very quickly fading out of high performance wakeboarding, and were looking to market and to advertise a lot of low-end product, a lot of like cheap life jackets and like floatable mats and that type of product, which is great, and there's nothing wrong against that. But me being with the company and me being in the position that I am within the industry, the fit just slowly started to not make sense.
Yeah.
So they were paying me all this money. I was on a gravy train for a little bit. I was like on great money with them and for a long period of time. And I was 2 years into a 5-year contract, going into my 3rd year, and I had a phone call in November saying that they're transitioning and they wanted to cut my pay by 80%.
Oh.
And I was like, I just won 2 world titles. Like, wow, like that's like, no, like that
doesn't make sense.
Like, yeah, if you're running a business and one of your employees is going out and actually being very successful in the industry that we're in, are you going to support them? Or are you going to hurt them? And I got the feeling that there was no mutual respect anymore. And so I ended that phone call in November saying that I wasn't accepting that offer and that they had to go back and make something for me. And meanwhile, this is all through a 5-year, like in the middle of a 5-year contract. So it was like, that was like pretty disrespectful in its own. And then they pretty much came back in December and said, yeah, no, we're sticking by this. And this is what we can offer you. And I pretty much just said, like, in a very PG way, I was like, yeah, no, like this is not happening. You know, like I've been with you guys for over 10 years. Like this is not how you show respect to your employees. And so I ended the conversation saying that I was not signing this contract, that I was done, and I was more than happy to ride company-less for however long it was going to take. And O'Brien were like, okay, well, like we can still pay you like royalties for your boards for the next 12 months. I was like, I don't want your pity money. Like this is you saying that you don't want me, but then like you still want me to be a part of you. Like, no, like this is not acceptable. Like I'm cutting all ties and like thank you for everything, but like I'm moving forward and moving on to the next chapter in my career. And I was very okay with that decision. And I think a lot of people in my support team didn't want me to do that. They wanted me to show loyalty and respect to the people that have showed respect to me. And I'm obviously a big believer in that, but an 80% pay cut after winning 2 world titles and pretty much carrying the brand on my shoulders just didn't seem right. And I cut all ties and moved on and kind of just put the feelers out to a couple people and wasn't expecting anything to happen. And to be brutally honest, I reached out to Liquid, I reached out to Ronix, and I reached out to Hyperlite, and both Liquid and Ronix were interested and down to do something. And they were like, yeah, like let's work on it and see what happens. But I think this could work. And which was great. But the biggest difference with those 2 brands and with Hyperlite, I spoke to Greg. Well, I spoke to Murray originally and asked the question, and he goes, yeah, I'll send you Greg's number for sure. And sent Greg an email and gave him a call. And the enthusiasm and the passion and the want to make something happen was so organic and pure and true that it just felt so right. And Greg threw something straight at me on the phone, like straight away. He was like, yeah, no, we're doing this. Like, it's not, we can't let this opportunity go, like fly by. And like, I love that. It's just that enthusiasm and that passion was what really stood out for me. And I just knew that was the right decision to make. And that was so true. Like being being a part of Hyperlite and being I'm still so like new
Yeah.
to the brand. Like I've finished 2 years with the brand and working with a company that cares about the industry, but two, the products as well, and wants to make a change for the better. And it felt right, and I felt like I was home instantly. Like I went to the first product shoot, and like they welcomed me in with open arms, and it just, everything about the process just felt right at every step. And even still today, like everything is just making so much sense, and everything has worked out for the better. So I'm like, it was a big risk, but something that I'm so happy that I made.
Oh, awesome. That's really cool to hear. That's good. Sticking up for yourself, making that choice and making that, kind of jump into the unknown, but then finding a new home and finding a place that, cares about you and helps you kind of do your thing, which is really rad. Speaking of that, I would like to congratulate you on your 2022 Pro Model Board Capitol. That is so exciting. That is so exciting. Yes. You have been on the team for such a short time. So I've asked you before, like, brand managers and whatnot, like, how does someone get a pro model? How do they earn that? How do they get to that point? And some people are like, oh, it takes forever. Some people don't get one. So what was it like getting a pro model board so quickly on this team? It's awesome.
It's rare. It doesn't, that doesn't happen. And like, I think that sort of says a lot about Hyperlite and where their passion is and what they want to create within the industry. And look, it doesn't happen that easily. I'm unbelievably lucky to one, be able to join the best wakeboard brand in the industry. Like Hyperlite's one of the best wakeboard brand for the last 2 years. So like, to be a part of a company like that, but to be so new and to be a rookie, and then like I signed my first contract in February, and I had a phone call in May.
Crazy.
And they were like, start shaping. And like, we spoke about it, like as we were signing the contract, like we all knew it was gonna happen at some. You good?
My AirPod on the ground. Sorry. Keep going.
That's all right. It was spoken about briefly, like when I was signing a contract and whatnot, and like we both knew that it was like could potentially be on the cards, but I was expecting it to be like a minimum 3-4 year thing.
Totally.
And I signed a contract, and then a couple months later I get a phone call from like the head honchos at Hyperlite, and they're like, start shaping, and we'll get a shape out next year. I was like, dude, like I signed my contract 2 months ago.
Yeah. You're like, what are you guys talking about?
Like I'm having, this is my first conversation with you. Like I'm meeting you for the first time, and you're telling me to start shaping and create a board. It was unbelievably special, and I know that it doesn't happen like that, and very lucky that I had the opportunity that and it was one, I think it was timing as well. JD Webb was kind of fading out of the sport a little bit, and his contract was running out, and he had a high performance shape in the line that they were downgrading. So one, I was very lucky to slide in at a really good time and to have a space open up so perfectly is rare in itself. So I think that was like just conveniently really good timing, and is a factor to have this board out now. But it doesn't happen like that. It takes years of creating a relationship with a brand and with the right people, and You look at other people, for example, like they've been talking about it with a brand for 3, 4, 5 years, and then an opportunity finally pops up where like it popped up for me in like 2 months. So I was like,
Yeah.
I know that that's not normal, and I'm like, yeah, I'm stoked.
Yeah. So rad. So rad.
Yeah.
Such a good way to kind of get started with the 2023 year and really get excited for what's to come. I kind of want to talk about 2023. I know we're still currently in 2022 and the season just kind of ended, but if we can think about what we're most excited for in 2023, does something come to mind?
I honestly haven't given it a thought.
You're like, my board's on the shelf. Like, no, I'm not doing that yet.
No, look, 2023 for years, I can't talk. 2023 for me is gonna be a pretty big year for sure. Very lucky to have some products come to market with Hyperlite. And the last couple months that I spent in the US, I was doing a lot of events with like a lot of dealer events with Hyperlite to try and really spread the word and kind of get people to realize that I'm not with O'Brien anymore. Like I have had a huge shift in my career, and that's been like one of the biggest struggles is I think like I had that image of being with them for so long that breaking that is so difficult in its own. And so for me, like I have a product that I'm 100% happy and proud of, and am happy to bring to market, and want to tell people about it, and want to tell my story about how I ended up on this shape and how it came about, and just the whole process. And for me, that I've never had a good opportunity to be able to tell that story. And because for the longest time it was just like, yeah, here's a shape and like this is it, and we're just going to sell it to a couple of dealers. Where like now, like the people that I'm working with are so passionate and they're so caring about what they've got in their hands that I now have that outlet to be able to tell that story and to be able to tell people how it feels to actually go back and forth and create a shape and to create a board that one, that I'm proud of, but also two, that I believe will stand up within the industry, and people, and I truly believe people will love this thing. So it's fun and exciting, and I've only got a lot more of these events and a lot more people to talk to and to share experiences with the similarity of over a product. It's fun.
Yeah, you're just getting started too. Okay, I'm only going to do this one more time and then we'll be done. But I need you to give me one word to describe the 2022 season.
Fun.
I'm going to get you a dictionary and send it to you because you.
No, I enjoyed this year a lot more than I have last year. Which was really exciting to experience. And I think the longer I do this, the stronger relationships that I create in my life, and they then allow me to be myself a little more and to have fun and to enjoy the process a lot more. And like that's, I feel like that's happening more and more. Like I got better people around me, and like I enjoyed this year way more than any other year. And it was probably one of the more stressful years I've had on tour, but I weirdly enjoyed it. So which is weird because I feel like I haven't really enjoyed myself on tour the last couple of years. Like it's been satisfying and it's been great, but I haven't enjoyed it and had as much fun as I had this year. So for me, that only leaves me more intrigued for what's to come next year and to actually see what's possible. So I'm excited. Like if this year was as much fun as what it was, then like it's only going to be better.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm excited to see what 2023 has in store for you. I have a feeling there's a lot of really awesome things gonna happen. So we look forward to seeing it all go down.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's good. Hopefully it's fun. Hopefully it's just knocked out of the park.
Yeah. No, I can't wait. I really, really can't wait. So I'm sure it'll have its fair share of challenges, as every year does, but they're only becoming more and more satisfying and more enjoyable every year. So which is great because it's sustainable and it makes me want to do it more than feel like I have to do it. So
that's a good feeling, and that's important for sure. All right. Well, I'm excited to see what 2023 has in store. I want to say thank you so much for sharing everything with me today, and everybody that's going to watch this. It was really, really fun, and thank you very much.
Thank you for bearing with me. I feel terrible taking this long to actually sit down and have a conversation with you. So like, one, I'm sorry, and two, thank you very much for bearing with me and for having me on. And I can't wait to see how this comes out.
See what happens. Yeah. Well, we will be posting it up soon, and we'll get it out there to everybody. So thank you very much, Cory.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Summer.
All right. Bye-bye.